And welcome to another fine, energetic session of High Vibe Channeling on this January 22nd. And our lovely attendees are settled in, taking care of some minor business here. Okay. And we are all looking forward to seeing who's coming in, including myself, because I have no idea. I'll just step aside and I it may be the Usal, but who knows? They're slippery when they wish to be. So we'll see what happens. Oh, one more. And we have come to you before in another time frame in your reckoning, and it was well received, and we have taken this opportunity to fill in the gaps, so to speak. And although we did not come prepared with our message, we need not do so. We have the field of infinity at our beck and call, and we shall bring it upon you to discuss the planetary energies and connections which you have or may not have in your own individual chosen expressions. And in this, we do consider Pluto a planet, although your scientists seem to flip-flop on that every 10 or 20 years or so. They will find that they will, in time, consider the consciousness types to determine their labeling, and then it will be reinstated as an energy considerably aligned with a or the other planets. The Greeks knew this. They honored the gods in ways, for they considered those different energies and felt them. They were able to align with them because their beliefs had never wavered. They were taught those early, and as children wondered what they were. And as children, they were not susceptible, but more accepting of those energies and understood and could identify them. And in that way, those spirit guides, which came to them under the nomenclature provided by the parents and other generations, were available to them on a more personal basis. And those in ways were attached to the planetary realms, which is how those associations with what appeared in their skies came about, how your astrology came about in a more modern form, we will say, for it always existed back when humans were not so dependent on speech. They understood and could communicate with the stars, with the planets, with the streams and the rivers, and the beings of the forests. the deserts, the skies. They needed no language, for they could get the symbols that they needed. Now, for this particular group, beliefs have a lot to do with how the planets affect you. If you pay attention to the astrology and you look at it with longing, you will find that frames your perceptions. And if they are not correct, that is what you get. For you will find different astrologers interpret different things different ways. For like the channeling, it all comes through a filter of knowledge, of education, of expectations. For they do not, in many ways, understand that it is the humans who guide the stars, who move the planets. For as has been reinstated, or stated to you time and time again, this is your universe. You created it. You move everything in it. You have all agreed to share some of what you have created to establish a cohesive reality which you can all, quote unquote, depend upon to function in your playground of sorts. Now we will ask you to think in your minds, or if you wish to scream them out while you're muted, please do so, what your favorite planet is. And with that thought, what is the association of the energies or the beings or the symbolism, perhaps gods, that you have associated with those? Now, those may not be the ones which are generally accepted. If Mars is your planet, that does not necessarily mean that you are warlike or that you have that type of identity or picture those. Those are more subtle and they can overlap. For you can like many different ones and be attracted to many different ones. Many prefer Venus, the evening star, seeing themselves as shining bright and coming and casting light upon the earth, and lots of other energies as well. Some prefer the mysteries of the rings and the many moons of Jupiter. But it is not unusual that none of you thought of Uranus, for that is indeed a sideways planet. It is not meant to be like the others. It is the oddball. It is the acceptance of all others like you are practicing on your planet. And of course, your grander expressions would say, which planet? We are encompassing many galaxies. But that is a lesson for another day in another you outside of linear time. But the attributes that you associate with the planets which are your favorite mean something to you on another level and on this level. And that association is not without merit. For indeed, there are other lifetimes or energetic resonances which you have associated with those planets which you have chosen to bring to you in this way. Understand that with your particular timeline expressions, which is a slippery term on its face, there may be worlds which you have thought of, which you are attracted to, which you may put upon some of the planets which you know, because they more closely resemble that. So if you do not have that favorite planet, it is unlikely that any of you picked Malbec because it is a mere fantasy, a footnote in your scientific journals, even though it was responsible for a portion of the moon which you know, which is kept in orbit and adapted to be a dancing partner with your planet by non-human means. Now, when we asked you to think of your planets, it had multiple associations with it. It is always amazing that the majority never pick Earth. They look to the skies for their identity, and yet they skip the one which they chose to be on. That is an identity which shall be changing. And that is another aspect of this particular message, this lesson. And you will find that you will be identifying with all of the planets, all of the moons, all of the races and beings which will be coming as one. Now, this will be easier once you are able to have that telepathic connection with many energies, many diverse forms, in ways which would in some way frighten you at this particular juncture. For even now, if the TV is turned up too loud and someone is talking and someone else is playing music, it can get on your nerves. Can you imagine having 7 different beings connecting with you? You are not built for that. You are built against that. But that too will change. That is one of the things which the blending with the hybrid children will bring about. For indeed, it is not only your generations which have come forth in your past 20 or 30 years, which have awakened new DNA and new abilities and able to withstand greater energies and connect telepathically with each other, with some of their animals, with their parents or guardians, or those they wished to communicate with. But they are set to have offspring with the hybrid children, to further integrate those energies into the new race of beings which humans are evolving into. The upgrade of which you are all setting the foundation for and helping to bring in with your energetic resonances and by your leadership roles which you have chosen formally or informally. And that pleases us greatly. For we are addressing you because you came to hear these messages. You came to learn more of yourself. You came because your focus is on the future. Your day-to-day life does not thrill you in the ways in which it used to. You are not here to participate in those particular games which others have lived their entire life by on the surface, in material worlds, striving to meet goals which others tell them are important. You have all chosen to follow your heart, to hear the voices of your higher self, to heed your higher calling, and to come together as a unified whole. This is part of the beginning. This group is part of that unification, like it will be with all channeling. Those are merely steps, baby steps, for the telepathic community which will be available. And at first, that will not be from channeler to channeler, but it will be more of a blending of the higher realms, allowing that communication, enabling that communication between those who are connected to them consciously and willingly. We are happy that makes sense to all of you, because your higher selves are good buddies. They are best of friends. They are all with you in this common purpose, this common mission in your terminology. And they are all very pleased with how well you are performing. Yes, performing in your roles. You are not acting. You are participating from a sense of knowing. And part of that knowing is knowing that you need to know more. That is one of your innate senses which has been activated. Some people are satisfied with where they are, even if they never stay there, and they never realize how they have changed. And even if they do, they attribute it to 3D events, their external environment. Oh, well, I have learned how to do this skill better, so therefore I am not the person I was before. Only they think, oh, I am still that person, only now I can do this thing better. You do not. You know, I have grown. I have cast off the old self. I am making way towards the new self. That is a big difference. That is part of the split on your planet. And rightfully so, for that is why you have come. You have not come to maintain any status quo unless it is the status quo of not maintaining the status quo. That will be enough from us for the time being. Let's see what you, leaders of the future, have to say.
Thank you. Christiana, Anna, please.
Greetings to you.
And to you.
For the record, Earth was the first planet I thought of. And I think Earth is an absolutely gorgeous planet. And I absolutely look forward to the future where I have a better vehicle of some sort, where I can whiz about comfortably and quickly and enjoy a bit of this planet, because I've seen very little of it so far. So that's for my future plans. But for now, to satisfy my curiosity, because you mentioned the Greeks, right? And I was wondering if you could talk about the 12 gods of Olymp and who they were, and what was this whole deal about all their affairs and all that stuff that was going on. What can you share about them?
There are blendings of energies from higher realms and extraterrestrial beings amongst humans, which have occurred. There are other beings, more higher vibrational beings, which have taken a liking to humans because not only could they handle more of their vibration, but because those humans acted in their passions. That was a way of connecting. They did not identify strongly with the physical world, and they wished to know more of which they came. And those beings gave them a taste of what that could be. And in some ways, those unions, we will say, were translated through stories as those interactions of matings between gods and humans, when in fact they were more of a spiritual nature, where human energy capabilities were raised up so they were indeed not the same as they were before. And they would have access to more information and feel differently. And if the higher realms or the beings which chose to connect with them in that way, they could be playful at times and insert a particular glow upon them, which others could feel or see. Their auric field may show up, or it may have changed colors due to those changes. Now, those stories were embellished in ways, but they do contain what you consider kernels of truth. So look to them like you would all religions on your planet. Look to the seed, the divinity within them, and not pay such close attention to the wording used to describe them.
Thank you.
Or,
Sorry.
quite all right. For you will find that even with matters of the heart, when they get retold, the brain can allow certain liberties to fit in, especially when tongues are loosened by alcohol. And those stories may be remembered and retold because of the reactions which they generated. And that became the goal more than the information being presented in its more natural or native state, if that makes sense. And thank you for bringing that forth.
Wow, thank you.
Angie, please.
Hi, thank you for being with us tonight. This is just great synchronistic timing because that you're speaking of Greece and the mythology there. For as long as I can remember, I've been totally fixated, captivated with specifically Greek mythology. Ironically, just today I was listening to the soundtrack um, from the Odyssey this very day when I was out on my walk. So this is funny. So I would love to take this opportunity to see if you're able to tap in, maybe to see why I have such a strong draw to that time period and the mythology of that time.
Please do not take this the wrong way. You have set guide rails for your exploration on this planet. And yes, we understand you are tired of hearing it, but we are going to ask you, what do you think the answer to that is? Why do you think you feel so strongly in those ways?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's a far stretch to maybe think that I had a lifetime and an incarnation, a counterpart, obviously that's happening at the same time, I realize in this respect. Um, so th that would be my guess. I feel like I had a lifetime or sometime a presence back then. That is my guess. But I knew that we were asked to ask you about our own soul questions, things we wanted to ask about our own soul. So I figured this is a perfect opportunity.
You do not realize the truths you have spoken, for you indeed did have lives, and you indeed did have presence. That is your nature, or some of the nature of your attraction to that. For you watched over certain what you would consider your sheep, and we do not mean in the shepherd with the staff form, but you were a guiding energy for some of those humans in that way. And you did experience some oratory profession in those times. And you also were a feminine, not only expressed in the womanly form, but in the male form as well. For those were different forms of societies back then, and those were not looked upon with derision, but as merely playful expressions of gods which chose variety.
I don't think I understand what you mean by that. Can you kind of clarify that last part, at least, of feminine and all of that jazz?
You were a homosexual
Okay.
who chose playfully to explore relationships in a loose fashion, we will say, not tying yourself down, but playing to the whims of others.
Was I human? Or is that what you're saying? I was a human of that
As a
time?
human, yes.
Okay.
Assuming, of course, you already understand that you are never human. That is merely your expression, but we understood the question.
Was this a different expression than the one that looks over at sheep? Are these two different expressions you're speaking of?
The sheep were other humans.
Right.
You were a presence for them, a guiding hand. You summoned thoughts to them to lead them to fulfill or to make changes or take directions which were more desirable for the higher realms which brought them forth.
And this was the same incarnation as the other one, or these were different incarnations?
Would it matter?
Hmm. It'd just be interesting to know. So
They
when you say
are
the
all
oratory,
separate.
they were separate incarnations. So
The
you,
period of Greece involves many centuries,
Mm-hmm.
many different types of governances, many different challenges, many ascensions of spiritual and intellectual knowledge, and they valued great thinkers, but they also valued those who exhibited the joys of life and did not take it so seriously. That was one of your roles.
And you said one of my roles was oratory. Does that mean I was like an oracle? Maybe I worked in a temple. Is that what you mean by oratory?
There were those who chose to speak, who felt the need to come forth because all who had something to say could be heard. Now, those who were not in favor were laughed or shouted down and suffered a social rebuke and minor loss of status, and may have found it harder to regain that platform, that soapbox in your terminology in your current day.
So one of my expressions was experiencing that experiences of being knocked off my soapbox.
We mentioned nothing about that.
Okay. Trying to put the pieces together.
That will have to suffice, but of course you can explore that in your dreams. View yourself in that standing and addressing others, and hope they do not laugh and jeer at you.
Okay, thank you.
You received information on 3 lives and a spiritual journey. That should be sufficient. We did not dodge your question. And yet, tantalizingly so, your questions never end.
No, they don't.
It is an attribute, not a detriment, because that is part of the chosen form and mission which you have blessed yourself with. We suggest that we will not suggest that.
Why won't you suggest that?
Because it is time for us to play with others.
I see. Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Anita.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this interaction. Um, you had talked about the coming of the split of Earth. Could you explain more about that, please?
It is not a split of the earth. It is the choice of the earth which you wish to experience.
Yes.
There are a multitude of earths, some which do not sustain life, some which thrive in a way of natural cooperation, in which the Sasquatch still interact with humans, and other beings are free to come and go from the stars. That is the one which you are rebuilding, which you are using as a model. You are copying that energy, so to speak, and that is what you are implementing, but in a novel way which has never been expressed. It
What do you?
is, it is the unfolding which is the magic within the magic which you are creating. Seizing your own power and knowing you have that power and then utilizing it to benefit all in a unified form, to unite your consciousness and your hearts.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And thank you. Even though that did not directly answer your question, you may refine it if you would like, and we may try again.
Um, I believe I understand the mechanism of how we choose, but my concern is more for family and friends that don't have the knowledge that I have. I wish them the best and wonder how I can help.
Just send them love, for you may not be aware that as you choose your new realities, as you build them anew, as you vibrate into a frequency match with the realm which suits you, which you have called forth, all of the beings which you encounter in that realm will also match that vibration. So the beings who you know as family, as friends, not all of them will make the transition, perhaps, but those that do will not be the individuals that you knew who would not be there otherwise. So those who may be more locked into their 3D lives, or maybe exhibiting or participating or sharing in behaviors which do not are which are not your preferences,
Mhm,
you will find in the new realms which you are creating that their actions and their beliefs, and in some ways your morals, which is a judgmental term,
mhm.
are more closely aligned with yours, and you will not have those splits of viewpoints, we will say, in such disparity.
I understand what you're saying. That's one of the things that I was thinking about, that we would actually um, discover different versions of the people that we know that is more aligned to our vibration.
Well, you are creating it all, so you
Yes.
might as well create the ones which there are inhabitants in your reality which suit you.
Mhm,
And that is, in a simplified fashion, what you are doing. Now, they are still their own energies, and it will be a particular expression which has or which exists in that higher vibrational or lower vibrational reality. And we use that term for your clarity.
mhm.
But you are the maker, the creator, the experiencer. So choose what is best for you,
Mhm.
and the best of them will be the best for you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much for clarifying that.
And thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you for being here and touching this subject, which actually is very, very comprehensive and unifies many, many, many things. The initial theme of the planetary energies, and starting with Pluto, uh, this is a planet that is very intimately related to the United States, or whatever this country was founded on, because it was founded on a Pluto cycle. And we happen to be on the return of that Pluto cycle 240 some years afterwards. But there are many other things of great interest to me. I am not an astrologer, but I had to understand a little bit about astrology to know and be able to read my chart with sufficient confidence. And in doing so, I certainly have experienced what Pluto does when it really hits you hard. But I've also experiencing what it does when you flow with it. And the same thing can be said about all the other planetary energies. I was particularly gratified when you said that all of these things are really all created by us. Of course, we are the creators of reality and the makers of meaning. We often forget about that. But I was really gratified when you talked about how we have come to create a collective consensus from all of these things. And from there, you took us to what's your favorite planet and so forth, or, what comes to mind, and then make the distinction of Earth. Well, most people don't ever think of Earth because that's the ground that they're on. Maybe, I don't know. But the majestic thing about the planet, at least as far as we understand this planetary system, is that this is the most diverse in life forms. And I say that all those life forms represent versions of civilizations that exist somewhere else in this universe, which to me means that this is a very well thought out planet. There's a lot of influences here from very, very, very early on. And so all of that is very gratifying. It connects to me with the concept of what's about to happen. It also connects with the fact that humanity is about to reach a stepping stone of great significance. And there'll be many more after that, but certainly I've always have thought in my life that people don't realize, but we still were living in the dark ages. The technology was not sufficient to take us out of the dark ages. But here we are, making.
Are you sure that you do not think you get paid by the word?
Yeah, no,
You
I am sure
meander
I
like
don't.
a
Yeah.
river.
There is a question in here, after all. I, I'm gratified by all of this. He energizes me. Question has to do with an energy called Thoth.
Can you repeat that, please?
Thoth, Toth, ancient energy that I believe has been manifested in various different periods of the earth. And of course, most people think Egypt, but it precedes that by a lot. And that I believe that it is in human form. So if you can address that.
Not that we came to disappoint you, but that is not an energy with which we are familiar.
I'd say, okay. Thank you.
The name recognized something in the channel, but his knowledge of it is scant.
Okay. Thank you. I will yield to Christiana.
Thank you. Hello again.
And to you, and to all of you, thank you.
So, going back to the Greeks, would you be able to mention who actually built Parthenon on the Acropolis, and also what was really going on in the mysteries of Elefsina?
We are not the type to play in the physical manifestations of the energies or the interplay of them, which caused or led to the particular structures. But they, like the Parthenon, like the pyramids, like many different revered constructions on your planet, all have a powerful energetic resonance still to this day, which is part of the unlimited and endless energies which combined to bring them forth. Now, we are not dodging your questions. We are merely not willing to come forth into the 3D realm to explore more of them to get the answers of which you need.
It's okay. I was suspecting I might get an answer of that sort. Thank you anyway.
And you will when you go there. You can ask, and it will be given to you. For you can tap into those energies knowing that you can. You can put your hand upon the structures or what is left of them and let that energy soar up from the ground into your hand, through your feet, and get that knowing. You will find that the voices of others will grow fuzzy. Do not let that dissuade you. Let that be a recognition that you are receiving. Now that energy, that knowledge may not come to you immediately. It may unfold in the evening or when you are gazing at a fire and your consciousness loosens, or when you are in the shower or the bath and you relax totally. It may slip in or in your dream state, but it will be brought to you. Simply know and allow. It will be there.
Thank you very much.
So
And
I'm back.
yeah, you're back.
Thank you, Louis. I find it funny that you were mentioning the Parthenon and the pyramids because I literally just finished two Lego sets, one of the Parthenon and one of the Egyptian pyramids. So this is funny for me. Anyway, gosh, which question to ask? I should narrow it down. I guess maybe I have so many things I could ask about with Grace, obviously. So maybe I'll just go back with the planets. You said that our favorite planets tell us something about ourselves. And mine, I think definitely Neptune, but also Venus. I was wondering if you could, I don't know, tell me what that means, what that says about me, that those are my favorite planets.
We are not saying that maybe they are your favorite planets, but the planets you identify with. It is not hard to see why you would identify with Venus. You think yourself to be quite the catch. You are attractive and intelligent and energetic and knowledgeable.
Well, actually, I like Venus because it reminds me of love, but it also reminds me of the sun. And I love the sun. And I love love. I don't know if that's any extra context that would help.
That is not an association with the planet itself. That is an association which was placed upon it by humans. That is a story which has been accepted
Well,
and
I guess I
passed
could have
along.
I should have expounded. When I say the sun, I mean it's so close to the sun. It's like nestled, like just close. And to me, that just makes my heart happy. as opposed to the other planets that are so much farther away from the sun,
Then why not Mercury?
because it doesn't have the love vibe to it.
Ah, we're
It's
back
that
to the stories which you accept because obviously it is much closer to the sun,
true, true.
but it also has its frigid side, which never sees the sun.
Hmm. Venus? Are you talking about Venus for this?
Mercury.
Oh, Mercury. Oh, I gotcha. Any thoughts on Neptune, on why I suspect that might have to do with the Greek Parthenon connection, though? I feel vibes, I don't know, drawn to Poseidon and, Atlantis and all of that stuff too. But that might be just me uh speculating, conjectures, when there might be something else to the whole notion of Neptune.
The connections are more of an energetic attachment to being or beings which have lives as you know them on that particular planet. For all of the planets are blessed with life. All of the planets are conscious. All of the moons are conscious. There are environments. There are many multiples of thousands of each planet in which they explore their own expansions, which is all part of a master experiment of your solar system, your galaxy, your universe. Those expressions are not human in your terms.
Okay, so I'm connected. I'm feeling a connection to the beings on that planet. Okay, thank you. That's very interesting. Thank you.
Miles, please. Miles.
Yeah. So my question has to do with the concept of others. In other words, in my world, everything is all that is. That includes people, but plants, rocks, mountains. And that being the case, everything is infinite, and therefore everything is also love. Now, since the, the beings in our life are separate from us only in word, they are, in my world, they're in my life. The beings in my life are in my life because they love me unconditionally and have agreed to reflect me back to me. They've agreed to follow my script. Doesn't mean they're not independent. They are independent. And I'm probably serving the same function in their lives that they're serving in mine. But in my map of the world, I don't know anything about anyone else except that they're reflecting me back to me. Do I have that straight?
In a limited fashion, you do, for that is one of the chosen blueprints of expression in this particular realm. Outside of it, those reflections may have different meanings. They still have meaning, but it may not be reflecting in the ways which you interpret when you are physical. For instance, you may see something reflected back to you, but it will be reflected back to you to stir something inside you which you wish to then explore. and not be a lesson which you may need to learn. Now, you are also expressing your dichotomy because you view them all as one, as you, but still express them as individual beings, which is not really a misnomer, but it is part of the conditioning which you have chosen for the human form in this physical expression of your higher consciousness. You do well to assume an identity of that higher consciousness, of that knowing, but once it is brought forth into your physical realm, it loses some of its cohesive knowing qualities. That should not dissuade you from further pursuing that, nor should it upset you that you cannot fully grasp it. It is more of, we will say, like a complex mathematical expression which you cannot understand. Not that it doesn't exist and you acknowledge it, but it is just not for you at this particular time, in a limited way of speaking.
Thank you.
Anita, please.
Thank you again for being with us and interacting with us. My question is something that you just briefly touched on, that this Earth was or is a planetary experiment. Is that correct?
A grand one which has billions of beings intently observing in many of its facets, especially it is more like a TV set with thousands and thousands and thousands of channels, and they get to tune in on the ones which interest them most. For if you had a hand in producing a television show which was felt deeply by many, it could be that you were a writer or a composer, or you helped with the costumes or the lighting, or maybe the production or any other part of it. When you watch that and you saw others delighting in it, it would light you up. That is what they are doing, for no matter what their form or how they are involved in Earth and its various manifestations, it is becoming something of a heavenly glow in its progression into the new Earth form it is assuming. You are helping to bring in, you are creating, for the Earth itself is being reborn. And with it, all on it, will exist in a new higher vibration, which is more easily accessed by many of those beings. It is a coming home for them that they can finally connect in a more conscious way with their energetic offspring, we will say, which has manifested in a physical realm that of Earth.
That brings up another question. The purpose of this experiment, and also, are there other planetary experiments in the past or future or present, or I guess it's all past, future, and present are the same existing. But I was wondering if we are unique or one of many.
Yes,
Both?
all is unique. There are no duplicates in all of creation. And the first part of your question escaped us.
Um, so Earth is considered an experiment. What was the initial purpose of that experiment?
Expansion and growth, a new playground for entities and consciousness to express themselves and explore in novel ways which had never been expressed before,
Mhm.
like all creation.
Okay.
It is just a form in which you are familiar, and not the billions of forms and realities which you are not.
Mhm.
They are all unique and expressions of expansion and growth for those who choose to inhabit them or to participate in them in some energetic fashion.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for answering that question.
Thank you for being so polite and for coming forth with it. And thank you to you all for that as well.
Thank you.
And at this time, we will take our leave. And we appreciate you coming forth and in ways bringing us forth so that we may fill in the gap in this particular gathering for this individual channeler. And although we are many, we have no form, and yet we are you, for you have no form. You merely have a guise which you have accepted for this particular expression. Let it serve you as long as you accept it. Greetings, Earthlings.
Reading.
Thank you, Ray.
Oh, Wanda's got a halo. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
And that was
Wow.
actually more than one being. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, but they changed. And
So,
I only knew it because they changed my hands. One was had my hands in a certain portion, and another one had my hands in a different portion, and they sat more upright.
so they said they are you. Was that the you from the before, or that was
I
them just
don't
saying?
think so. To be honest, I'm not sure. Because they said they came through, but it didn't sound like, and it didn't feel like, and it didn't have the resonance of any of those other beings which came through. They were more distant in ways, are muted.
Now, when I read your description about this session tonight, you didn't you say that they were coming through because they pertain to the specific people that were going to be here or something like that?
Well, that's always.
Oh,
Hmm.
so
I
then
mean,
the way you worded it, it sounded like it was different than always. I don't
well, I
know,
mean,
maybe.
even if the hybrid children come up, the version of the hybrid children which you energetically perceive depend on the energies which everyone brings into that.
Mm,
So, I mean, even even our representations. For instance, if there were 10 more people, then we would get a different Angie and a different Anita and a different Christine because all of those energies blend together and we react differently. And if people are upset or, they're worried about something else, then that changes everything too. It's just that we don't know it because we switch a billion times a second. Who's got time to keep up with that? And the energy and the entities who come in are the same. I mean, they're the same energy, but a different expression of it because it matches the energies of the group, if that makes sense.
Isn't it technically speaking, we're talking to ourselves
In ways.
in way?
I don't know, but, when people say technically, everybody, that
Technically,
means
spiritually.
yeah, technically means something different to everybody.
Yeah, I'm not talking about technology, but I'm talking about resonance,
Hmm.
energy resonance.
A belief.
Semantics.
Yep.
Semantics, but I can see, how we do change. We all know that. We notice that, sometimes we have friends that we are uniquely more whatever with them than others.
But
So we know that
yeah, but you can also switch off and switch back.
very quickly. You can.
So,
Yeah.
and we would never know,
do you think
how,
they're like that in the higher realms? I guess it is with everybody.
well, you say higher realms, but which higher realm? When we say higher realm, we just mean non-physical,
Yeah, that's what I
and we
mean,
lump them all
non-physical.
together.
Hmm.
So it's like saying, okay, well, I have this book out of the encyclopedia. Is this representational of all the other books? Well, in
Well,
a way, but they all contain different things. All of the higher realms, I mean, some people say there's 20, some people say there's 11. Some people say there's 9 or 10. I don't know.
I guess maybe my question is more, uh, do you think this is a human physical trait that people are different ways with different friends and stuff like that? Or no, that it could really stretch beyond to other even non-physicals. Is it, a human thing, like an ego thing, is it attributed to that or
Well,
in the
they all exist.
Mhm.
There's many layers, obviously.
And
And
and you can't think of anything that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So there are expressions which are easier to understand and harder to understand and impossible to understand.
Hmm.
And even within them, there are the same expressions. Unless your source itself, there's always going to be a higher vibration and a lower vibration, which you exist in. It's how much you choose to, or you're able to comprehend and integrate, I would say, which depends on where your overall combination vibration, which has, we think in terms of depth and length and width, but those are just our limited perceptions because there are over 200 senses and we get 11, five major ones that scientists like to, foist upon us with their labels. But, there are other ones too. We can sense air pressure. We can sense when people are looking at us, and even though we're not looking at them, we have that telepathic connection when we know people are thinking about us. We're like, oh, I was just going to call you, that kind of thing. We can sense pressure from oceans. You know, when we go down, we can feel different pressures, and not necessarily because our ears pop, but because that's a sense that we have.
Mm-hmm.
I think of it in terms of those senses define a dimensional space by themselves, and you can add time to it. So the 11 senses, can get you to 12 dimensions right away. If you just decide to try to operate with 6 senses, 5 and a little something more, you have 7th dimension with time. Okay.
I like that.
And so when people talk, Ray said 200 senses. Okay. So it's unfathomable for us to even, geometrically in any way, after 3 dimensions, it starts becoming very difficult. Okay. But think of it as a coordinate system of a state that's very uniquely defined. The more senses that you are using consciously or unconsciously. How do I want to say this? Here you are, 3-dimensional, Angie. Everything else that you are is in some way affecting you in this 3rd-dimensional experience.
And even those senses, as you go into different dimensions, can be different forms of expression. Because, like, there are some beings that only see radiation, but they may see 50 different types of radiation, but they can't hear. They may not have any form, so they have no tactile sense. So they interpret everything according to what they can sense. There are beings who see, who can see all of the different forms of light, from ultraviolet to infrared. And there are beings that can sense that and not see them in what we consider. And the hybrid children talk about that. They touch upon that. And they mentioned that, and the teacher mentioned that today, Benicia, when the hybrid, or when the Yael teacher came in, because Luis asked, well, how do they see us? And they're like, they don't see you, they sense you. They have more than just those senses in which they can view you. I mean, because they're feeling your aura. They're feeling your resonance. They're not really seeing it. And they see you outside of physical and in physical. So they have a depth which is unfathomable for us, because they can see spirits. They not see optically, but they're in telepathic communication because they can view those energetic forms before they cross over into physicality. And I don't know that I can explain that any better. But it's, I guess, in a way, it's kind of like being able to see the fish in the water and above the water, because they both look different. When you put your head down underneath the water and you look at things, and then you look at it above water, it looks different. Now, it's not that different for us, but that's just an analogy of, once you cross that barrier, then your perceptions change. But they're both
You
valid.
can add to it that the physics, what you consider to be the physical rules, change as you go into that other, in this case, you can see that in the water, which is very interesting. Think about the possibility that you put your head and you have one eye in the water and the other one out. And that's kind of what we're doing every day.
Yeah.